Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday morning mindfulness session brought to you by Mind the Moment and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. This is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them and to process as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino, and I am delighted to be here with Rebecca Wing, licensed clinical professional counselor and mindfulness instructor. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning. Pleasure to be with you today.
Nice to have you here this morning.
Hello to everyone who's logging on.
Yeah, we have a good group coming on as always. And today we will start off with a question for the group, which always gets everyone waking up and chatting with one another. And then Rebecca will lead us with, we'll share some thoughts and lead us in a guided practice. And then after that, we'll have time for questions and comments. So if you could please go down to the bottom of your screen, open up your chat, and then there's a drop-down menu that would give you an option to click on everyone, and that will allow you to see all the comments coming in as they come in. So, Rebecca, how would we like to kick things off on this nice, sunny New England morning?
So the question for contemplation today is, what's my relationship with the word and the concept of equanimity? So what's my relationship with equanimity? So what we'll do as we explore this today a little bit is I'm going to ask us to, when we meditate this morning, I'm going to suggest that you try one particular approach, and I'll lead you through it a little bit as we go as well. This is a form of meditation called insight meditation, which is when you notice a specific thought arise as you're following your breath. I want you to categorize it. In other words, if you're thinking about your spouse, simply say, label it as spouse, and then come back to your breath. If you're thinking about work, simply label it as work and come back to your breath. And just see the different categorizations. It could be your children, it could be your health, it could be a thought about the past, it could be a thought about a TV show. Just see if you can actually just a one-word label of what category that thought is before you return back to your breath, and see what it does with your awareness of the mind and what arises in your thought stream. So let's take a posture that we can get comfortable in this morning. As always, when you sit in meditation practice, the idea of having the spine upright and long is really helpful. Making sure that your ears are up over your shoulders so that you're really aligned top to bottom. I find that way to settle the hands. And let's just make a decision that we're going to rest the managing mind as best we can this morning. Give ourselves some time to arrive with our attention in this moment, in this room, in this chair. Notice where you might settle or soften a little bit. Where in my body can I notice what I'm experiencing and encourage a little more settling in? Allow the awareness to focus on the breath. What am I noticing in this rise and fall of breathing? Good to keep in mind, we're not trying to manipulate or judge or evaluate the breath. In a way, we're trusting that the body can breathe itself while we simply are aware of it. So rest the mind in the rise and fall of breath. When you notice a thought arise, label it: work, family, health, past, future, and then come back again, resting back into awareness of breath. Gentle awareness of the thinking mind. Give the thought a label. Come back home again. Breath. Steady the boat of your awareness. Simply name the type of thought and try again, committing to the sense of breath. For the last part of the meditation, drop the form of it entirely. Simply allow your mind to do whatever it wants to do, and just give yourself permission to rest, simply resting. As we end the practice, take your time. Draw that deeper breath back into the body, move in the hands and feet. Maybe even a little stretch would be good as we end the practice.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Welcome. I wonder about if folks have questions about that form of meditation. I'm not sure how many people have explored insight meditation. It's a different kind, isn't it? That you're noticing the breath, the thought that comes, but you're actually trying to categorize it in a sense. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to type in the chat there. Because I know that sometimes when you get a new meditation instruction, it gets a little bit like, what? What am I doing? What's the technique? Yeah.
Yeah, and especially the last part, what was how did that resonate with folks? I'd love to hear see in the chat if when Rebecca just said, okay, just let the form go and just take in what's there.
Yeah, just rest. Yeah.
Just rest, right. I
So,
know.
Go ahead.
I know there's been different times when I've gone through that kind of a practice guided, and I've had some really amazing experiences during that time. And I've also, it kind of depends. Sometimes, your mind will just go into a little spiral.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think oftentimes that ending part is so helpful, because it kind of allows us to sort of loosen sometimes we get over effort when we meditate, or under effort or whatever. And so that just few moments of simply just giving the mind permission to do whatever it wants to do. Sometimes it's not unusual for people to go into actually a deeper state of stillness, because you're giving the mind permission to do what it normally does, which is think randomly. And when you give the mind permission to do that, it's a little bit like a petulant child. He goes, oh, well, no, then I'm not going to think about anything. So there are these possible, sort of moments of it giving up and having some stillness. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So someone said something, hi, Carrie, good morning. Being able to put a label on the thought and swipe into a folder was really helpful this morning. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Just put it on the desktop in a folder and whoop, back to breath for sure. So I wonder, and I just want to kind of tap into this concept of equanimity this morning, since we have so little time together. Equanimity is a term that in our culture, we don't really talk about that much. And I thought what I would do this morning is share a handout that I created for the meditation classes that I run. One of the things I want to sort of full disclosure here, I'm a mental health professional as well as a meditation and mindfulness teacher. And so to me, the concepts that we work with in meditation apply directly to our daily lives. And so that's what this handout is sort of designed to discuss. And, one of the absolute truths, we've all lived long enough to at least accept and acknowledge that life has positive and negative poles, right? Good things happen, bad things happen. The challenge with it is that when we're lost in reactivity to the truth of that, we tend to get into states of aversion when we face the negative pole of duality. So we push it away. We don't want this to be happening. This shouldn't be happening. I don't deserve this, or even getting into these deeper states of thinking that, oh gosh, this is never going to end, this horrible thing that's happening to me. And I liken it to a seesaw, the negative and positive poles of reality, of life in general. And so when this negative pole rises, there can be all these different kinds of states of pain or blame or financial insecurity, even poverty, illness, violence, failure, right? The list goes on and on. And what happens when that arises, we tend to get into a state of aversion. We don't want it. We don't think it should be happening. So interestingly enough, that also happens in the positive pole, but in a different way. Oftentimes we get into states of clinging when we're arised with positive things. That oftentimes creates a sense of wanting to possess it, hold on to it, escape into the positive experience, wanting it to never end. And, this is the way life should be, right? We sort of get convinced that this is a perfect thing and we want more of it. And so these states, when the positive realm on the seesaw rises, as we get into these states of pleasure and praise and wealth and health and peace and success, and of course, again, the list goes on and on. So if the problem is, and this is what we find in the mindfulness instructions, is that states of clinging can create suffering just as much as states of aversion. Because either way, we tend to get locked into not really accepting the fact that all things change. So this is the wisdom of equanimity. So equanimity in its simplest form here is learning how to rest in equanimity so that we can experience the rise and fall of both poles, positive and negative, while staying centered in the understanding that all things come and go. Change is inevitable. So the question is, how does that relate to meditation practice? Well, when you notice the rising and falling of thoughts coming and going, some positive, some negative, some clinging, some averting, then we begin to recognize that within my own mind, I can see the negative and positive poles of duality. And so now I'm getting more clear about the change as a constant, not only in the outer world, but in my own mind as well. And, one of the things that's the hardest thing for most people to accept is as we again live our lives, we understand really there's no inherent solidity to life. There's no actual predictability. There might be moments of stability, but then ultimately some things change either within me or on the outside. So we're trying to hold our seat amidst the back and forth of polarity. And one of the biggest wisdoms about this is that all things change. So I'll wait and see. And the second one, these three are the most important that we could talk about today. Whatever arises, I'll work with it. And to learn how to rest in uncertainty. I use the term loving awareness here. This is a mantra that some of my clients work with. In other words, if I can drop into the present moment and broaden my awareness to the present moment with some form of kindness to whatever's arising, then I have the chance of being okay with uncertainty and learning how to rest in it. So here we have our little meditator who's sitting in the center of the seesaw. So the reality of the fact is that the rise and fall of the positive and the negative poles are going to happen. But can I find my seat in the center of it? Even though I'm still going to feel those states that are painful, I'm going to have states of aversion and clinging, but perhaps I'm not going to stay there for quite as long. I'm going to be able to come back to that center point, that apex of the seesaw, so that I'm not being slammed back and forth by not good enough or this is great, I want more of it. Now, this is a very deep and profound sort of perception in the world of mindfulness and meditation, because this also occurs to us when we're in meditation. Sometimes we have really awesome meditations where we think we're the best meditator in the world, and other times it's completely out of control in the mind, and we struggle. So this concept of all things change also works within the meditation to meditation, that I can know, okay, so today is going to be a little bit of a challenging one. I get it. I've been here before. I know that for today, I'll work with this in my meditation, and I'll wait because I know tomorrow my meditation will be different. So this is the beauty of equanimity. So it's a broad topic, but I thought it would be good to sort of throw it out there to you all this morning. What comes to mind around this? What seems countercultural to the concept of equanimity? Why is that sometimes sort of considered to be less than a desirable state, to be in the state of equanimity? I wonder about that question, because it came up with me and a client the other day that they were questioning whether that was actually a viable, desirable state to rest in, of accepting and acknowledging change and working with whatever arises. So what do you think about that? I wonder, those of you who are out there.
Yeah, just type away if you have any thoughts or questions on that. In adding my thoughts to this, I feel that it's I think it's countercultural. You know, I feel like there's this happiness kind of theme that is pervasive in our culture. I don't know, maybe that was around 5 to 10 years ago, where, you know, we can find happiness, and you see these books, there's like a whole section of the library that would be all about happiness, and, you know, this state of always, like you say, clinging or looking to. And it is counter to the way that we live, I think, in the West, to say that, you know, staying with or being with negative thoughts is not the way we normally are.
Yeah. And Tammy, I agree with you. This helps to keep the constant exhausting state of urgency in check. In other words, I can acknowledge that things are going to change. And, you know, it's interesting. I had a client say, well, it seems to me that equanimity sounds pretty boring. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So in other words, think about it in terms of reality TV. Now, reality TV is the most exaggerated form of seesaw of rising and falling. Once they're the best of friends and everything's great, and then the next she's throwing wine in her friend's face and stomping out, right? And so this recognition that somehow and we can attach excitement with these states of aversion and clinging, that we think it creates sort of this lushness of life. Well, the problem is that we tend to get a pretty wild ride. And so we're uncomfortable, we're unhappy, we're urgent, we're anxious about either something going away or something staying too long, right? And so this is the challenge with equanimity, finding that center ground. And I can honestly say, after 30 years of daily meditation, when you start to get more and more clear about that, you find a way to hold your center. You are less swayed by the rise and fall of duality. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like the metaphor of the ocean, the waves on top of the ocean, and how when you go below, that's when you can find that's some of that stillness. But the waves will always be there on the top.
Yeah. So Sarah, I hear you. It's hard to put all this in the in a chat box. Wondering why you can't open up this format in the last 10 minutes to everyone being able to speak. Oh, instead of just 2 people being able to speak. And so in other words, unmute all, maybe. I think that might be what she's saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different format. The webinar doesn't allow us to do that. And, you know, it's food for thought though, Sarah. We've talked about different ways to evolve this format. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
always think about these Tuesday mornings and what Thursday morning meditations that you all do. It's like just like a zinger, and then you get to work with it a little bit. So here's what I would suggest this for the next couple of days. Just see if you can explore when you notice that you're in a state of aversion or clinging, and drop back into your breath just for a few moments during the day and see if you can regain a state of equanimity. All things change, whatever happens, I can work with it.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful guidance, wonderful thoughts for us to take into our week. And the wonderful thing as well is that Rebecca will be back on Thursday with us. So
we'll unpack this more. We'll go back to this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you know, we're happy to have the conversation about this, and we will continue it into Thursday. So if you can join us at 8:30 on Thursday as well, we'd love to have you. So nice to see everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, for being with us this morning, and we look forward to Thursday and continuing this wonderful conversation.
Great to be with you all.
See you soon. Okay. Have a good day.